The last time my mother cried over me, I was 11 and sitting alone at a restaurant waiting for a cake that never came. Tonight she cried again, but for a different reason. I said one word she wasn't prepared to hear. No. And now I'm waiting for the consequences I've spent my whole life afraid of. My heels clicked across the marble floor of my building's lobby, each step announcing my arrival like I was walking onto a stage, except there was no audience, just the echo of tired footsteps on a Tuesday night. 14 hours at the office. 14. And yeah, it paid off. I crushed the Horizon brand's presentation. The client looked like she was about to adopt me as her eldest child. But as I checked my phone, nothing. Not a single missed call. Not one text. The elevator chimed gently as the doors opened. I stepped inside and caught my reflection in the mirrored walls. There she was, me, Quinn Edwards. 32 years old today. Senior PR executive, supposedly at the top of her game, looking like she was wearing exhaustion as part of her outfit, like it was a limited edition fragrance only sold to overworked corporate professionals. My green eyes stared back at me, and I swear they looked like they were asking, so, anything special happening today? Anything at all? And the answer was still, nope. 0 notifications. 0 birthday wishes. I unlocked my apartment and walked straight into that silence that feels heavier on certain nights, and there it was. The little cake I bought myself that morning. Sitting right in the center of my coffee table like some tiny, frosted reminder that nobody else thought of me today. One candle. Unlit. A lone soldier waiting for orders that would never come. Happy birthday to me, I muttered, sounding like a bad punchline. My briefcase hit the floor, heels went flying toward the couch, and I collapsed into the cushions. Even with all the furniture and carefully chosen decor, the place felt hollow. Like it echoed in its own way. The wall clock ticked toward midnight, toward the end of a birthday that might as well have never happened. I reached for my laptop. Fine, Quinn, be productive. Check the proposal again. Fix the Westfield pitch deck. Do anything except think about how pathetic this feels. But my fingers had other plans. They opened Facebook before my brain caught up. And that was when my stomach dropped. There on my screen was my brother, Miles. Laughing, champagne in hand, surrounded by practically my entire family. Behind him, a huge banner. Congratulations on your promotion. My dad was beaming, like someone cast him in a commercial for Proud Fathers of America. My mom was pressed against Miles' other side, glowing like she'd personally launched him into orbit. The timestamp? 4 hours ago. 4 hours ago. On my birthday. I scrolled. Photo after photo. My aunts. My uncles. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. People I barely recognized anymore. All celebrating him. My dad commented, so proud of our superstar. My mom added, the Edwards family legacy continues. I closed my laptop before I shattered it. Because they didn't forget. Not this time. They chose not to care. And just like that, the past came crawling back. 11 years old, sitting alone at a restaurant, staring at a half-melted candle while waiting for them to return from Miles' debate competition. They promised they'd make it in time. They didn't. 17, exiled to grandma's house so they could visit Yale with him on my birthday weekend. It's his future, Quinn, Dad had said, unable to look me directly in the eye. My college graduation dinner, where my summa cum laude honors disappeared the moment Miles stood up and announced his engagement. The celebration shifted like gravity had changed direction. Just last month, Dad dismissing the Horizon campaign I led to a 41% revenue increase. It's just advertising, Quinn. Not like Miles' work in finance. That's real impact. I looked down at my silent phone, scrolling past names of relatives who only remembered me when they needed something. I was about to close everything down when an email notification popped up. My performance bonus, $82,000. My chest tightened. That money was life-changing. And then, my phone rang. My mother's name lit up my screen. For a split second, ridiculous hope flared in my chest. Hello? I answered, too eager, too vulnerable. Quinn, sweetheart. Mom chirped. Perfect timing. So, we're planning something small for Miles and Jessica's anniversary next month. I was hoping you could handle catering and maybe decorations? You're so good at that sort of thing. Midnight hit. My birthday was officially over. Mom, I said, my voice shaking, today was my birthday. A pause. Oh, right. Honey, with Miles' promotion, it just slipped our mind. Slipped. There. Mind. I stared at the open email. $82,000 sat waiting. And something inside me, some plate, some beam, some buried foundation, shifted. Don't worry about it, Mom, I said. And I meant it. I finally understand what matters in this family. For the first time, I truly did. 4 days later, I sat at my desk at Horizon PR when I accidentally discovered something I wasn't meant to see. Mom had invited me to a group chat by mistake. The messages were a punch to the gut. Dad, Quinn should contribute at least $20,000 to Miles' anniversary gift. Mom, she just got that bonus. Time she supported the family for once. And there it was. My name. Spelled wrong. 1 N. Like I wasn't even worth the extra letter. I leaned back, staring out over the Chicago skyline glittering outside the conference room windows. I should have been preparing for a client meeting, but instead I was realizing just how invisible I was to the people who raised me. A knock at my door. Jennifer peeked in, curls bouncing. Everything okay? Miles used our contacts at Regentech, I said, turning my screen toward her. Pulled their marketing director into a meeting for his investment firm. Didn't even ask. Jennifer read the messages, eyebrows climbing. And your dad wants you to give $20,000? For an anniversary party? Wow. That's unbelievable. She perched on my desk. What have they done for you, Quinn? Seriously. Before I could answer, my boss, Lawrence Chen, CEO of Horizon PR, stepped in. Quinn, he said, sliding a folder across my desk, Westfield's quarterly revenue jumped by 41%. The board is thrilled. This is why I fought for your bonus. You earned it. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. Because if my own family couldn't see my worth, someone else clearly could. And that was the moment I knew something was about to change. After Lawrence left my office, his praise still warm in the air, Jennifer rested a hand on my shoulder. A simple gesture, but it hit deeper than she knew. See, she said softly. At least somebody recognizes what you bring to the world. For a moment, I just closed my eyes and let that sink in. Someone saw me. Someone truly saw me. And maybe that was why, when my phone buzzed again and Miles' name flashed across the screen for the 4th time that day, I finally answered. I kept my tone painfully professional, as if I were talking to a client and not my own brother. Miles. Quinn, great. Listen, I need a favor, he said in that smooth, entitled voice he's been using since he learned how to tie a tie. I need Regentecca's chief marketing officer at a dinner I'm hosting tomorrow. Serious investor opportunity. Family helping family, right? I stared at the skyline outside my window, the city glowing gold in the evening haze. I'll see what I can do, I told him. Neutral. Non-committal. Controlled. Because if I let 1 ounce of emotion leak out, I might drown in all of it. That evening, I stopped on the 3rd floor of my building instead of heading straight to my apartment. I knocked once, and already I felt my shoulders loosen. The door opened to the smell of warm oatmeal cookies and a smile that could thaw Chicago in February. There you are, said Mrs. Bennett, ushering me in like a beloved granddaughter. These cookies aren't going to eat themselves. For 3 years, every Tuesday, we'd sat at that little kitchen table with its soft, worn checkered cloth, me with takeout, her with dessert. She listened to me, remembered things about my life, asked about my campaigns and presentations. She was proof that being seen wasn't impossible. Tonight, I spilled everything. The group chat. The wrong spelling of my name. The expectation that I should cough up $20,000 like I was an ATM with perfect posture. The way anger had turned to something smaller, almost childlike. And they spelled my name wrong, I finished, my voice thinner than I meant. Her hand, warm and steady, folded over mine. Some parents, she said, are so busy admiring their own reflection that they never learn to recognize what they actually have. Her words followed me home. They clung to me like a second skin as I changed clothes, preparing for a dinner I'd been dreading for days. Saturday evening. The Edwards mansion stood on Lakeshore Drive like a monument to generational ego, 3 stories of stone, glass, and legacy I was apparently never meant to inherit. Inside, my mother was perfecting a floral arrangement like it was a competitive sport. My father poured scotch with the same seriousness people reserve for national security briefings. Miles and Jessica sat on the sofa, posing like they were shooting an ad for luxury vacation homes. Dinner moved through its familiar performance, Dad narrating my brother's accomplishments like a TED Talk no one asked for. Mom embellishing with supportive laughter. Me pushing salmon around my plate, waiting for the moment I knew was coming. It arrived with dessert. Quinn, my father said, placing his coffee cup down with surgical precision, we need to discuss your contribution to Miles and Jessica's anniversary celebration. The room contracted. Even the air felt like it was waiting. $20,000 should cover the venue and catering, he continued. As the only family member with a recent windfall, it's appropriate. Family supports family, my mother added, pearl earrings shimmering like tiny chandeliers of judgment. Family supports family. Funny how I'd never been on the receiving end of that arrangement. I can't, I said. Quiet, but real. My father blinked, confused. I beg your pardon? I can't contribute $20,000, I said, making my voice steady. That's a quarter of my bonus. I have other plans. Silence. Actual, stunned silence. What could possibly take precedence over your brother's event, he asked, voice lowering like thunder rolling in. My future, I answered. My mother's face crumpled instantly. After everything we've done for you, she whispered, tears trembling right on cue. And something in me, some old instinct, wanted to fold, to apologize, to shrink. Instead, I heard my own voice say, what exactly have you done for me? My father stood, towering over me. I will not tolerate ingratitude in this house. Your brother is the true achiever of this family. The least you can do is support him. There it was. The bruise. The familiar one. I rose, legs shaking but holding. I'm leaving, I said, grabbing my purse. My mother reached out. Quinn, don't make a scene. But I didn't soften. I didn't shrink. I walked out the front door, guilt dragging behind me, but something else following too, something new. Resolution. The calls began the next week. My mother, every morning at 7:15, like clockwork. I started leaving my phone in the bathroom while I made my coffee. Sweetheart, this rebellious phase needs to end, she scolded through speakerphone as I put on mascara. I'm not rebellious, I told her. I'm 32. Then why are you breaking our hearts? I stared at my reflection. What exactly have you sacrificed for me? Her gasp was genuine. We gave you everything. I have a meeting, I said, ending the call. Because I did. A real one. With people who valued me. That afternoon, my father stormed into my workplace, like he owned the building. Heads turned. Jennifer mouthed, code red. I intercepted him before he could erupt in the middle of the lobby. Dad, this is my office. Then conduct yourself like a professional, he snapped. Professionals honor their family obligations. I guided him toward an empty conference room, cheeks burning as coworkers tried not to stare. "We missed one birthday," he said. "And this is how you repay us? One birthday?" I laughed. "Try 20 years. He rolled his eyes. "You exaggerate." My phone buzzed, "Client emergency." "Which one got priority?" "The one that valued me." "This conversation is over," I said finally. "It is not," he growled. "But it was. And we both knew it." 3 hours later, I stood before the executive team, laying out a crisis strategy that saved a $3 million account. Not a tremor in my voice. Not one. The CEO shook my hand after. "Exceptional work, Quinn. You didn't just save a client, you strengthened our entire reputation." Warmth bloomed in my chest, slow and unfamiliar. At work, I mattered. At home, I was currency. 6 missed calls from Miles. 1 text. "Mom's crying every night because of you. Fix this." Fix. As if I was a maintenance project. I silenced my phone. 3 weeks after my birthday, I sat alone in a corner cafe, half-eaten carrot cake beside me. Nearby, a group of friends celebrated a woman in a paper crown. "Make a wish, Amanda," someone called. And something inside me cracked, not broken, but open. I typed into a search bar. "Lakefront property, Michigan." Listings filled the screen. One caught me immediately. 4 bedrooms. Wide water-facing windows. A wraparound deck. Towering pine trees like living guardians. Price, $365,000. Could I? Should I? My chest answered before my mind did. I called a realtor the next morning. 2 days later, I stood on the deck, sunlight dancing across the lake like tiny sparks. "I'll take it," I heard myself say. Mrs. Bennett came with me to sign the papers. She squeezed my hand. "Some people spend their whole lives waiting for permission to choose themselves. You didn't." Weekends became paint, toolboxes, new bedding, framed photos of my victories, just mine. No Miles. No comparisons. Finally, I invited the people who had shown up in my life: Jennifer, a few colleagues, Mrs. Bennett. My cursor hovered over my family's names, then moved away. Send. A small action. A revolutionary one. That night, on my deck, under a sky full of stars, I realized. For the first time in my life, I was powerful. Not because of my title or my bonus, but because I had chosen me. And then, this morning, I did something simple. Something enormous. I tapped post. Just a picture of me, barefoot on the new cedar deck, glass of Pinot Noir in hand, Lake Michigan stretching forever behind me. A caption waiting beneath it. A truth I was finally ready to say out loud. The caption was short. Barely a sentence. "Weekend at my new lake house, a birthday gift to myself." But that one line, that was the earthquake. I set my phone on the weathered cedar railing and tilted my face toward the Michigan sunset. The September air had that early autumn crispness, brushing cool fingers across my cheeks. The sky glowed gold, then deepened to pink as the waves rolled lazily against the shore. Chickadees chattered in the pines as if they were gossiping about me and approving. For 20 minutes, I just breathed. No talking. No noise. Just me and the lake and the kind of peace I always assumed other people got to feel. Then I picked up my phone. 17 missed calls. 32 messages. Mom had called 8 times in 15 minutes. 8. I locked the screen and slid the phone into my jeans pocket. Not today. Today was mine. I curled into the Adirondack chair I'd assembled with my own hands the day before, tightening screws, sanding corners, muttering curse words when the instructions made no sense. I watched the sun sink lower, turning the entire lake into a giant sheet of molten gold. My house, stood behind me like the first true decision of my adult life. 4 bedrooms. Open kitchen. Stone fireplace that cracked and popped like applause when lit. Every detail, from the sage green siding to the vintage brass doorknobs, came from my own vision. No committee. No approval. No comparison to Miles. A buzz. One glance at the screen. "Jennifer. You deserve this and more. Can't wait to see it in person." My chest warmed. Someone understood. Monday morning came with 6 voicemails from my mother. And each one was more chaotic than the last. "Quinn, call me back immediately. Where did you get money for a house? Your father wants to know. This is completely irresponsible. People are asking questions we can't answer. How do you think this makes us look? Your brother is driving to your work right now. You better be there." The final message, arriving at 10 a.m., was practically a summons from a royal court. "There's a family emergency meeting tomorrow night. We expect you there. Don't make this worse than it is." Delete. 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 Instead, I made blueberry pancakes in my new kitchen, humming to myself like someone who had escaped a cult. By the afternoon, I'd hung curtains in the master bedroom, assembled patio furniture, and debated painting the kitchen cabinet sage to match the exterior. My work phone rang. Jennifer didn't bother with greetings. "Your brother showed up at the office looking for you," she said. "He looked rattled when I told him you'd taken the week off. Asked if I knew where you were." "Oh no," I whispered, half laughing, half horrified. "What did you tell him?" "That your location wasn't my information to share." I grinned. "I love you, you know that?" She snorted. "Don't thank me yet." He cornered Devin from accounting. Devin may or may not have mentioned Michigan. "Sue, heads up." I looked out at the lake, where a breeze lifted reddish leaves off the grass like confetti. Let them figure it out. Saturday, my improvised housewarming party filled every room with people who actually cared about me. My coworkers arrived with practical gifts, kitchen gadgets, throw blankets, a set of wine glasses with little gold rims. Greg, my boss, brought an expensive Cabernet and a handwritten card. "To celebrating yourself, Greg." I nearly teared up. We grilled steaks and corn on the deck. Someone connected a small speaker and soft 80s music drifted through the air. Laughter. Real laughter. People leaning into each other. Sunlight glinting off the lake. I took pictures of everything. Mrs. Bennet arrived last, wearing her best blouse and carrying a quilt stitched in blues and greens. "For your bedroom," she said. "Every home needs something handmade with love." Before I knew it, her arms were around me. "I'm so proud of you, dear." This time the tears reached my eyes. I posted those photos, too, my coworkers, the quilts, the food, the sunset, each one a quiet reminder that I had a life outside the Edward storyline. Sunday evening, my father texted. "Where did you get house money?" Answer immediately. I poured another glass of wine. Didn't respond. Because for once, I owed them nothing. When I returned to work Monday, the Edwards family gossip machine had already entered DEFCON 1. My cousin Elaine called with the hushed tone of someone delivering state secrets. "Everyone's talking about your lake house," she whispered. "Aunt Claudia is beside herself. Uncle Richard tried to call another family meeting, but you didn't show." "I was hanging shelves," I said calmly. She hesitated. "People are saying things." "What things?" "That you've been hiding money. Or having a breakdown. Or that this whole thing is because you're jealous of Miles' success." I laughed. A deep, unfiltered laugh. That sounds exactly like something they'd say. But the call that finally pierced the bubble of peace came Thursday night. My mother. I answered on the fourth ring, settling into the porch swing that creaked softly beneath me. "Quinn Elizabeth Edwards," she began, her formal voice, the one she used with telemarketers and police officers. "This has gone far enough. The Petersons, the Carsons, even Reverend Wallace have asked about your situation." "My situation?" I repeated, amused. This attention-seeking behavior. Buying a house without consulting the family. Posting those photos. People are asking questions. I watched a heron skim across the lake, wings barely touching the water. "What questions, Mom?" Her voice dropped conspiratorially. "Why you would need to buy yourself a birthday present. Why we weren't there to celebrate. It's creating a very uncomfortable situation." I sipped my wine. Interesting. Almost like, actions have consequences. She refused to acknowledge that. "We need to fix this," she insisted. "I'm organizing a family dinner Sunday night. Your father and I will explain that this was all a misunderstanding. That we've always supported you." The old version of me, the girl molded by years of guilt and obligation, would have immediately caved. But that girl didn't own a lake house. "I'm available Tuesday next week," I said calmly. 7 o'clock. A beat. Then a wary, "And what exactly will you be bringing?" I smiled. Slow and sharp. "The photo albums." A trembling inhale. "What photo albums?" "The ones I've kept since I was 11. The ones documenting everything." The silence was perfect. Tuesday evening. I walked up the granite steps to my parents' mansion with 3 thick photo albums clutched to my chest like evidence files for trial. The sun cast long shadows across the lawn, shadows that tried to drag me back into old roles. But I rang the doorbell. Because tonight, I wasn't their daughter. Tonight, I was the prosecution. Dad opened the door, stiff as a statue. His eyes flicked to the albums, then to my face. "You're late," he said, turning his back. No hug. No hello. Just criticism. Inside, Mom waited, tissues clutched dramatically between manicured fingers. She looked up, her red-rimmed eyes framed by makeup expertly smudged to imply recent tears without sacrificing beauty. "Quinn," she quavered. "We've been so worried." I didn't take the bait. Miles appeared next, drink in hand. His confident smirk faltered when he saw me standing straight, unshaken. I didn't look away. He did. The dining room was staged like a peace treaty signing, good china, polished silver, candles trembling in the air conditioning. Dad gestured to the platter. "Your mother made your favorite. Beef Wellington." "It hasn't been my favorite since high school. It's Miles. Always has been." I placed the photo albums on the sideboard and took my seat. No food. No small talk. No placating. "Let's skip the performance," I said. "I know why you called this dinner." And all 3 of them stiffened at once. Because they knew exactly what was coming next. Much later that night, after the housewarming chatter drifted into softer conversations and someone moved the gathering indoors, I slipped out to the dock. I needed air. Space. A moment to take in everything that was different now. The boards of the dock were cool beneath me as I sat at the edge, legs dangling over the dark water. A faint smell of lake mist and pine needles hung in the air. Miles lowered himself beside me, not too close, not too far, like someone learning a new language of respect. Between us sat a package. Small. Carefully wrapped. Silent and impossibly heavy. For a while, we just watched a sailboat carve a thin line across the horizon, its white canvas glowing under the dying sunset. "Therapy's been eye-opening," Miles said at last, voice low, almost carried away by the wind. "Dad still refuses to go, of course, but Mom, she's trying. She talks about you differently now." I kept my gaze on the water. "And you?" He swallowed hard. "I never saw it. Not until you showed us. How they erased you while the spotlight stayed glued to me." He nudged the wrapped package toward me. "Open it." My fingers hesitated at the ribbon before I slid it off and opened the paper. Inside was a photograph I had never seen in my entire life. I was 7 years old, sitting on our old tire swing behind the house, hair flying wild, head thrown back in pure laughter at something beyond the frame. Just me. No Miles. No parents carefully positioning me out of the frame so he could shine. Just Quinn. "I found it in Dad's old storage boxes," Miles said quietly. "Had it restored. Proof you were here, even when no one seemed to notice." My throat closed, burning with something deeper than hurt. Something like being seen. It's not a solution, he added. But maybe it's a beginning. Before I could answer, a knock echoed from the front door of the lake house. The sound cut through the night, through memory, through everything. Through the window, I saw her. My mother. Standing alone on the porch, clutching a small white bakery box like it contained delicate treasure. Or a confession. She insisted on coming, Miles murmured. I didn't tell her where you lived until today. I walked to the door, hand trembling only once before I placed it on the handle. When I opened it, Mom looked smaller than I remembered, not in size, but in certainty. Her hands quivered as she extended the box toward me. Inside was a single cupcake, frosting swirled carefully, with one candle standing in the middle. Happy birthday, Quinn, she whispered. The voice wasn't rehearsed this time. It cracked around the edges. I brought carrot cake. You always liked that, didn't you? My breath caught. I did. I did like carrot cake. And she remembered. The party's winding down, I said gently, stepping aside. You can stay for cake, if you'd like. The relief that washed through her face wasn't triumphant, it was human. Small steps. That was all either of us could handle. Later, after she'd gone home with a quiet goodbye and a promise to call, not demand, not accuse, just call, I returned to the dock. The lake had shifted to a deep indigo, twilight draping itself like velvet across the sky. The windows of my lake house glowed behind me, warm and golden, like a lighthouse I had built for myself. Last year, I spent my birthday alone in a too-bright cafe, staring at an inbox that never lit up. Tonight, I stood surrounded by gifts chosen with intention, friendships chosen with care, and boundaries chosen for survival, not walls, but doors that I finally knew how to close and open. My phone chimed. A text from Mrs. Bennett. Did you enjoy your day, dear? I smiled, thumb flying across the screen. For the first time, I truly celebrated myself. I set the phone down, raised my glass toward my own reflection on the darkened water, my silhouette framed by starlight and the home I built from the parts of myself I refused to abandon. To the woman, I whispered, who finally learned that validation begins within. The waves answered in gentle applause. And maybe, if you've ever spent a birthday waiting for someone to remember you, maybe you understand.